What's up guys, my name's Diachronic here on this Destiny 2 video, and today we're going to be talking about how to get the high score on the Nightfall, getting around 85,000 score in the new Nightfall, which is out right now, the Garden World, which is going to be that Cyclops guy at the very end. This is actually one of the harder missions, definitely not the hardest, but the boss is kind of difficult to deal with, as well as the whole set of enemies along this are very nice to use. Lots of supers, you can get tons and tons of orbs, and this one's a lot of fun leading up to the boss, where the boss is kind of hard. So in our strategy, we're actually using only a 20 handicap. We're not using a regular 25 handicap because this is one of the more difficult ones. And our actually winning run, we did on 15 handicap. We got around 80,000 scores, 79,000 scores. So this one is definitely one you want to kind of bring the handicap down a little bit. Try it at lower levels, then move up as you go because it's more difficult. And of course, we also use Arc Singe. It seems like Arc is the best option no matter what. Enemies never seem to do Arc damage. The moment that the enemies do Arc damage, we're going to switch over to Solar and just gunslinger the whole thing. But for the time being, we're going to be going with Arc Singe. As far as the class setups, I recommend a double tether as well as a one smash titan. You can also switch out that titan for any other arc class, whether it be arc staff or stormcaller, as long as you have a roaming super that can kill lots of enemies without decaying very quickly. But in our setup, we use the titan because of the fact that titan also has pulse grenades, as well as the fact that he also has that big old shield, which is often useful for the boss. As far as the class setup goes for the tether, I recommend having the one tether that makes it so it's a larger tether, not the multi-shot. And of course, pick whatever grenade you want. Now, I understand that we are using Arc Singe on it, and these guys are a tether, and they have kind of a void grenade. That does not matter. The tether is very effective at spawning tons and tons of orbs, as well as a smash. If you combine these together and you compound them off of each other, you're going to be spawning orbs the entire time. We were finishing the Nightfall with like 40 orbs like each. Like at the very end, it's like 30 to 40 orbs each that we're all spawning by the time we finish the Nightfall. So there's gonna be tons of orbs, and I understand this is also Masterwork giving us orbs and whatnot, but there's gonna be a ton of orbs spawning. I'm gonna be telling you the best places to use your smashes as well as your tethered. As far as weapons go, I recommend a very kind of heavy arc setup. I recommend Wardcliff Coil or an Arc Sins of the Past in your heavy slot. You can also, for your secondary, I recommend going with the Minotaur, which is the explosive scout rifle. You can also go with Uriel's Gift as long as it's arc damage. And of course, your primary, something with Rampage, or if you're not using a scout rifle or secondary, probably using a Nameless Midnight, an explosive scout rifle, or some other scout rifle, because again, it's going to be a Nightfall with high handicap, so you want to have some range. And I guarantee, I recommend you use at least one scout rifle on one slot. It would be very, very helpful for this. So I'm going to be quickly going through the certain sections in this mission that I think are particularly useful to drop down supers or difficult, or mention the strategy behind them. So starting off, there's not really too much to deal with. You have a bunch of Vex. You go through the portal to go Infinite Forest. There's going to be a Cyclops here. The Cyclops can one-shot you even on a 15 handicap, so I recommend being very careful. The Titan, if you just drop one pulse grenade on him and his 4 little Vex buddies, it should be able to kill him, or at least send him into disarray to be able to shoot him with no problem. As well as the fact that at the end of the Infinite Forest, there's going to be 2 Cyclopses at the very end guarding the gate. They will actually snipe you from like 2 platforms away, so be very careful with them and watch them before you approach them. And as you approach them, they're going to be able to one-shot you. They sometimes drop heavy, although not all the times. Once you get out of the Infinite Forest, pretty much the Infinite Forest is straightforward. It's random. Just deal with it. Fallen enemies are the only guys with arc damage, so pay attention to them. They always do arc damage, and they hurt a lot. So if you see a captain, I would be very afraid. The line rifles from the Vandals are also very powerful, but for the most part, you don't have that many fallen in this, so don't worry too much. Once you get out of the Infinite Forest, you should pretty much all have your supers. Right when you get out, there's going to be a group of like 8 Vex right in front of you. I would recommend tethering and smashing these guys. 4 more ahead, you should be able to smash those guys as well. Something I should mention, which I forgot to mention earlier, that's very, very important. If your Smash Titan or your Killer Titan or whatever you have as your killer on the arc damage, if he dies during his super, you will not be able to get the orbs from the tether. For some reason, it seemed like very consistent. If you survive your smash and run back and survive, you'll be able to get those orbs. But if you do not survive and you have to respawn or get revived, for some reason those orbs disappear. So make sure you get those good smashes off, but you do not risk it for the biscuit, and you get back to be able to get those orbs from your teammates so you can make orbs for them to get more tethers, and so you can get more smashes and compound from the future. The next set of enemies, I recommend using some pulse grenades or Wardcliff Coil. If you ever see a Minotaur, just try to Wardcliff him. It should take care of him very quickly. Wardcliff is very effective at killing those big bulky enemies that are very large, have lots of surface area, just like a Minotaur. The next area should be pretty straightforward. I wouldn't, after you jump off that jump pad, I would not recommend using any supers here. If you are getting lots of supers and you think you could, You can use it. There's going to be a Hydra, some snipers, some harpies. Should not be that big of a problem. After you pass these two sections, there's going to be a section here where there's going to be 20 to 30 enemies that spawn in, a ton of enemies. If you send off your one guy ahead and actually trigger the enemy spawns and have them loop back around just to trigger those enemy spawns, maybe even destroy the cube, or have your tether hunters go invisible and destroy the cube, or get closer to be able to stop that Minotaur from having that uber shield. You should be able to tether like 4 times in this area alone. You might be able to smash like 1 to 2 times itself. This is a prime area for getting super kills, and it is one that takes you a really long time if you do not have supers. But again, make sure your main killer Titan Smasher survives, because very important for him to survive to get those orbs from his tether hunters. And again, if that big Ultra Minotaur gets within 10 meters or so, then hit him with that Wardcliff coil. Wardcliff is extremely effective from 5 meters to 10 meter range. If all the shots hit your target, they're going to absolutely destroy it. For the most part, I think it only takes like 2 Wardcliffs to take down this Ultra Minotaur on, I think, 20 handicaps, so it is extremely powerful. But don't do it if you're closer than 5 meters, because you actually might end up killing yourself. Once you pass this section, everyone should pretty much have their supers. Even if you shoot down 4 tethers and have 2 smashes, you should pretty much still have your super, because it is a ton of enemies and a lot of orbs. However, I usually only do 1 smash in this section, and maybe even like lesser, like 2 to 3 tethers in this area. Once you move over to the next one, there's going to be a couple snipers. Should not be a big problem. There's a gate here. Drop a pulse grenade on it. Should be easy. Once you move up the stairs, there's going to be a bunch of spawns that will spawn behind you as well as on top of you and in front of you. Again, there's a gate ahead. You can drop a pulse grenade on it. Here is where I recommend doing maybe a double tether setup and trying to get, you know, both guys with Orpheus rigged tethers to tether down the enemies and smash this whole section. I recommend you be able to do that. Again, make sure you survive so you can get those orbs to get the next section to be able to smash. This next section will actually have a bunch of Minotaurs, and as well as an Ultra Minotaur. These guys will be pretty easily taken out if you use some Wardcliff. If they come within 10 meters, just pop a Wardcliff. It should kill a Minotaur, or the Ultra should get them around half health. Otherwise, I just recommend staying at range, shooting the snipers, because they are pretty powerful, as well as the Minotaurs from range, and just kind of avoid their big old explosion shots and get through. This should be one of the harder parts, but it's definitely not something that's very long. As you come up to this next section, clear a little bit on the ramp, and then again, you can tether in the big group of enemies. If you have a smash, maybe use it, but I would actually hold it to the next area, which is going to be a big 20 to 30 enemy area. Once you get up to this next area, this is very important. Kill off a couple of snipers, then run forward to trigger the enemy spawns. Once you see all the harpies spawn in, then you're ready to go. Throw down your tether. You should be able to get, again, 2 to 4 tethers down, maybe 1 to 2 smashes in this area, and you'll be able to hit those Ultra Minotaurs with the Wardcliff coils, as well as maybe a little bit of smash. However, it might be a little difficult because he might be able to one-shot melee you. If you have your Titan, I recommend going with Masterwork armor to be able to survive these smashes or these kind of melee attacks from much more easily. Your tether hunters, I recommend focusing on getting those tethers down on the right spot, as well as these snipers, so your Titan can survive, because those snipers still pretty much 1 or 2 shot you while you're in a smash, so it is very imperative that you kill those guys quickly. But for the most part, all those harpies should pretty much die from their arc shields exploding on each other, as well as all the smashes. You should get tons of orbs in this area. There's also going to be like 3 to 4 Minotaurs in this area, so make sure you be very careful. Use some Wardcliffs or shoot them from a distance. The next few areas are going to be kind of self-explanatory. If you see big Minotaurs, try to use some Wardcliff coils on them. They shouldn't be that hard. If you don't have the range or they're not close enough, don't use it. Just use a kind of explosive scout rifle or use gift from range. Just try to stop them from being able to get right in your face as well as get too far. You have plenty of strategies to handle them. And again, there's going to be another Ultra Minotaur. Just use your Wardcliff coil or shoot him from range. He is not that difficult. And of course, there's also going to be a section right before the boss, I believe, with some fanatics as well as a Hydra. You could potentially smash and tether this section if you want to get a bunch of orbs, but this one should be pretty straightforward, pretty easy. And again, you're going to be going right up to the boss. You don't specifically need a super once you get to the boss, but it's always nice to have it ready for the ads that spawn. So on the boss fight, this is going to be the hardest part of the Nightfall. This is going to be kind of difficult. If you do not understand the mechanic, it basically acts as this. Once you damage the boss enough, he's going to spawn ads. Once you kill those ads and you damage the boss some more, he's going to rotate around to his 3 different spots around the circle. What you want to do is rotate around when the boss rotates to the safest location farthest away from the boss behind cover. The cover will change and kind of disappear and move to a new spot like 3 meters away. So make sure you pay attention to when it's changing and then move to the new cover spot. Whenever there's ads out, stop attacking the boss, kill the ads, then move back to the boss. There's going to be 2 sets of 2 kind of cube bubbles that show up with Minotaurs inside of them. I would recommend starting with one. Don't use your supers yet. Use your supers on the second one, because as soon as you destroy that second cube, the boss will wake back up, because as soon as those cubes spawn in, the boss kind of shuts down for a little bit while he's immune. And again, once you destroy that second cube, he wakes back up. So you make sure you clear out that second kind of bubble area as fast as you can. So use your smashes, use your tethers, and destroy them. But the first one should be, again, Wardcliff Coil, stay at a range, and actually shoot them. And you should be able to pretty much use this strategy. Again, if you see the boss rotating, rotate away from him. He rotates in different directions as he goes into the lower health sections. If you see enemies and ads, focus on those ads first. The sniper's imperative because they will one-shot you. It is ridiculous, even though that they're solar damage. And that strategy should be able to perpetuate you through the whole thing. There's not much more to it. At some point, you start shooting these like kind of big net things like Argo shoots, except for it's purple. If you're behind cover or next to cover, they should never hit you. It should not be a big problem. And his kind of laser beam it kind of one-shots you. It doesn't always one-shot you, but it pretty much takes out maybe 80-90% of your health if you're at full. You should be able to survive one, but it's going to be really close. And again, that's why you don't use void damage or void burn in this one, because they do a ridiculous amount of damage. Not to mention the Minotaurs also have void burn, which is ridiculous. And that's pretty much it. There's not much more to the boss fight. Just rotate away from him, shoot the ads whenever they show up, use the supers on the second bubble cube so that when the boss wakes up, you can get to him and focus him down and be able to pay attention to him, so there's no ads in the area, and it shouldn't be that much problem. I recommend, again, starting lower, maybe at like 5 or 10 handicap first, figuring out this whole concept behind the smash, when to smash and when to pass, and when to tether and whatnot, and figuring out where you need to do it, figuring out the boss, and then start upping it up to 15 and maybe 20. We are rather experienced Destiny people, and we're struggling on 20. We had to do it on 15, but we're looking forward to doing it tomorrow or even today to be able to get a higher score, or maybe even punch into those 100,000 scores with a 25 handicap. So I hope to see you guys out there on the Nightfalls. If you guys would like to play some Nightfalls, hit me up on Twitter, which is in my description down below. And of course, the rest of the video is going to be playing out for you guys if you had questions or concerns about certain parts and how we did it. I think I'm going to be stitching together the successful run as well as the handicap 20 run, so don't be surprised if you see some weird stuff going on with points. And the last thing I wanted to mention, which is pretty well known at this point, basically after 15 minutes you get half score or half multiplier, and I think at 18 minutes you actually start getting 0 points after that point. So you need to get as many points before that point to be able to get the maximum amount of score. And of course the boss does drop points, but I've never seen the actual points he gets because it's always minimized to 0 by the time we get there. So do not worry about getting a bunch of points on the boss. Pretty much as soon as you hit 18 minutes, go slow, take your time. You don't need to worry about it. The points tick down rather slowly. Anyways, that's pretty much it for you guys. There's really not much more to it. I hope you guys did enjoy, and let me know if you guys want to see this on future videos on high scores on how to do certain parts of the Nightfall. My name's The Night Chronic, and I'll see you guys on the next one.